I want to welcome Anya. She's going to be our next speaker. Hi, Anya. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Um, so I think it will be. I'm really looking forward to your talk. We just spoke with Teddy
Mhm.
about data science recruitment, and she also had a lot to say about education and the value of education, what not to
Mhm.
choose, how it is valued. I'm really curious to hear your perspective
Mhm.
on this, and would like to give the floor to you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll start sharing my screen. I did listen to this presentation. It was very interesting. I, in some sense, agree with a lot what she is saying, but with a slightly different take on it. So just to tell you a little bit about me and what I do. Oops. I work as a consultant at a company called Cmotion. We do different consultancy projects. And although most of the time the clients indeed think of me as a data scientist, it's not only building predictive models that I do. It's actually doing that up, of course, like I absolutely love being able to predict the future. That's when you can really feel that you're using the data. But also a lot of companies want to know how are they performing right now. So not only what's going to happen in the future. And for that, you need to create analysis. And if you've already done any of the data projects, you know that your output is only as good as the data that you're actually putting into your research and into your models. And I spend a lot of my time actually improving the data quality of the data that the companies have and automizing and streamlining their data processes. And that kind of brings me to one very big issue here, that sadly you need to start applying for degrees or courses before a lot of you will know what kind of a data professional you want to be. It's not only data scientists and data engineers. There are a lot of different roles that you might need to do. And it's of course best if you do what you enjoy, because of course data scientists have a nice salary and it's all very sexy. But if you're not doing what you are enjoying, why are you spending your days doing it? How I became a data scientist, I firstly took advantage of the fact that Scottish educational system allows you to actually do a joint degree. So I did a degree which focused on the management and on the mathematics. So this way I was able to really understand how companies work, as well as learn the fundamentals of statistics, linear algebra, calculus, which are the basis of what are the models that you use in data science. After that, I followed my first degree was a research master in social and behavioral sciences here in the Netherlands. And I focused on statistics and methodology. And really there, I've realized that I have this passion for really working with data and being able to predict what's going to happen and use the models, shape the data in a way that's useful for other people. So we got a lot of hands-on projects during a research master's. So if you are thinking of doing masters, I would definitely recommend thinking of towards research-oriented ones. And I would definitely say that for me, my education still continues as a consultant, really on the job, because you learn from your colleagues, you go to different courses whenever needed, because you realize that the tools are changing, that there are different things that companies prefer more or less, and you kind of adapt. And I know it actually looks like I've planned my education very well, and almost from the start, I went heads-on into data science, but the truth is I really didn't know what a data scientist is when I started my first degree. I was really overwhelmed by the choice, and I just went for something that I do enjoy learning about. And that is definitely what I would suggest to you. So do go and gather information about something that you like, because that would also guide you towards the kind of data professional that you want to be. So instead of looking at how to choose a good degree and an institute, I suggest to you thinking about how to become a good data professional, Because at the end of the day, it's not just landing a job that you need to do. You also probably want to be good at what you're doing. And I know that a lot of courses focus on toolkit, and that's something like machine learning, artificial intelligence. Python is especially very popular. But you should realize that these tools will be changing throughout your professional life. So although you should definitely learn them if you want to use them, but do understand that it's not that if now you're using Python, you will be using Python for the next 40 years. It might be that another tool comes around and then you'll need to learn that one. What I would focus a bit more is understanding the business processes and soft skills. Because what's very important about any data professional is to be able to make a difference with the data. And if you understand how the business operates, you know where you can make that change, where you can actually bring that value with the data. And soft skills, as already were mentioned before me, they're very important. Of course, definitely for landing a job, but also for working, because you need to be able to communicate with your colleagues and to explain what is it that you found. You can be a fantastic data scientist and work with the most cutting edge models, but if you cannot explain then what is it you're doing and why you're doing it, it's going to sound a little bit like you are taking your numbers out of thin air. So you should be able to convince the business that what you're actually finding is also what's likely to happen. And lastly, but not least, you should inspire people to work with data, because this data-driven approach of working is still very new for a lot of companies. So there is a lot of people who are just not ready for it. They've had maybe 10 years to adapt, or maybe they thought that their company will take 40 years, and all of a sudden their management is bringing this data-driven strategy. So you should definitely make sure that other people don't think of data as scary, and that takes soft skills. I would first advise you to focus on a program, not so much as an institute. And if you do know what kind of things you want to do with data, then this will be a bit easier for you. If you want to be a real data scientist, in the sense that you want to build predictive models, maybe work even with robotics, then I'd advise you to do a degree that has a very rigorous mathematics and statistics in it. However, if that's probably not your cup of tea and you want to work more towards data management, data engineering, data stewards, so that's more people who prepare the data, clean the data, gather the data, mathematics and statistics might be relevant for what you're doing. It's still nice to have an idea of those, of the concepts of, the kind of things that people will be using, because still what you're doing will then be passed on to data scientists, but it's not going to be as useful for you in your job. So then I would focus more on computer science, or maybe specific tooling. What really helps also is for you to think, do you have any prior experience? If you're changing careers, for example, and you have a lot of business experience already, it might be that the business side of the education might be a bit less relevant for you. Just to give a more concrete example, if you've already worked in a marketing field, and then you just want to become a data scientist who works in particularly in marketing, you don't really need to take marketing courses, because you already know how things work there. And there you just need to focus on the tooling and maybe on statistics. And likewise, if you have research and analytical experience, so if you've been working at a university, maybe you've already have a lot of analytical projects that you've done, perhaps you even published papers, those are all very valuable. And it might even be that you don't need to do a full-on degree, and just taking a couple of courses will suffice for you. I also would strongly advise you to think of such things as length of your education and building your portfolio, also what has been kind of mentioned before. Because if you haven't done a degree before, it might actually be a good idea to do a slightly longer one, to just give yourself the time to build your portfolio. And those can be absolutely things from Kaggle and GitHub and all those nice, almost game-like ideas that you can do. But also during your university, you can have a lot of research projects. And that's where, for example, I was very happy to have a research master, because we had almost a full year where we were just focused on our own projects. And that wasn't education per se related. We really were choosing what to do ourselves. And likewise, in University of St. Andrews, there was a very big element of business projects. And that is because I did a management degree, absolutely. But we actually went to different companies. We did consultancy-specific projects where we used data. So that did help me to build some of my portfolio. And if I think of which institute to go for, then location would be the key one for me. Because if you're applying to a university in the US, you will have connections from the US, most likely. Of course, it's now changing with COVID. More people are going to do remote degrees, but still predominantly people do tend to go for what they know more and to choose universities closer to home. So you can expect to have more Dutch people at a Dutch university. And then if you would like to work in a Dutch market, perhaps a Dutch university is a better choice for you because you can build the connections, and that includes your professors who might have even been doing projects in companies and can connect you with the right people. Or a lot of universities run mentorship programs, and those can really help you connect with people in the industry. As far as I know, University of St. Andrews is running such a program. I'm involved in it. There is a student that I've helped with a couple of things, and I would like to know how she's doing. And if you can have such help, that's great, because it's a person who can really explain to you what is hot right now, what do you want to apply for. And just don't forget that learning on a job will be very important. So do think of your first job as an institute where you're going to learn. I would like to give you one example, because we actually run an academy as well, because we recognize that indeed a lot of employers don't want to have a completely fresh person from the university, and they want to have a bit of experience. So we run a 6-week program where we address the tooling that's the most hot one, like those toolings that are most hot on the market. So for us currently it's Python, R, and Power BI. And we give real live business projects to our candidates. And also on top of that, help them with their conversation skills, presenting skills, advisory skills. And the people who go through this academy, we actually afterwards even help them find a job, because indeed we realize that it's so difficult now to land that first job without any experience. And the companies do want you to already know what's going to happen, even as a junior. So I do have one more advice for you on this stage, is don't look just for positions of data scientists. The truth is, a lot of companies don't know what they need, exactly what they said before me. And they also call this profession as something that appeals more to them. So it can be data analyst, data specialist, data scientist, sometimes even data engineers, actually data analyst, or they would say something like CRM specialist, which can actually still be data scientist, just specifically for marketing data. So my advice for you is to really look through the vacancies and see what kind of tooling, what kind of education they want. And if what you want to do is also described there, then you will have an idea for what kind of knowledge you still need to gather. So if you do get interested in the Cmotion Academy, the link on the website is visible right now. You can also contact me afterwards and I can tell you more about it or about any other programs that you might be interested. And if any of you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So stop sharing.
Thank you, Anya. I think that was very nice to hear your perspective as well, especially after the perspective from Teddy and hear from different sides. What do you think of the classical university education versus boot camps or MOOCs or courses? What do you think? Which of them serves which purpose?
Yeah, I think both of them are very useful. The more classical education helps you create that network of people and to get a bit more of an idea what life after university, that almost sounds contradictory, but you do get different experiences through working on a team project, maybe some research projects. And that is, of course, not only value for your skills, but also for your interpersonal skills. On the other hand, learning tools at university, although is possible, but much more difficult because you still have this idea of just needing to pass an exam. While when you're doing it online in your own time, you're doing it because you've chosen to do so. So I think then you get way more of a value for it. You also chose the tool potentially or a topic that you're learning. So you're doing it for a reason. And because you have that motivation, it's more intrinsic motivation. I think you get bigger value in the sense of, let's say, hard knowledge and tooling. But when it comes to interpersonal skills, I do think that the more classical education can help more. At least for me, I've done a couple of online courses myself. I didn't feel like I managed to meet as many people as I did through my other degrees.
Yeah, that's a very good insight. And we talked actually at the beginning of this summit, we also talked about the importance of community. And I think it's very nice to hear that coming back in your presentation. Thank you. It was very, very clear. And I love that you shared your ideas and gave like the different perspective and what worked for you and which what can work for different people, because I really do think that depends on what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a one track for career. There is no one type of data scientist, I would even say, because different companies need a different kind of a person. And that will also be translated in the choices that you make. There are a lot of companies who do not want to see graduates from those Ivy League schools, because that also brings a certain stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually we'll it's very nice that you make that bridge, because we will talk a little bit more about the job searching as well in the next presentation. Thank you so much, Anya, for sharing your knowledge here today. Like, you're more than welcome to stay along, maybe join the discussion in the chat or answer some more questions in the Q&A. Please, everyone, keep asking your questions. We really love seeing them. We try to answer them all. And thank you, Anya, for now. Thank you so much.